In this video, I want to show you a very economical way to grow miniature or micro-miniature Sinningia plants. And if you don't mind, I've left a couple of objects in the view because it helps with color correction on the camera. These are peanut butter jars that have been, obviously all the peanut butter is gone, and they've been washed, and I use them upside down. And in each of these I have a single Sinningia pusilla plant in a pot, and these make wonderful little terrarium environments for each plant. Now you can see I have three different types of pots that I've been using. One is your standard greenhouse pot that is 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. One is what is called a water well, and those are available at optimera.com. They were originally developed for, I believe, miniature African violets. They're a great way. They come with a wick that goes up into the soil and down into the water, and so the soil that the plant is in is kept constantly damp by the wick. And then I have a baby food jar in the third one from the left, and that one happens to be in bloom. And the fourth one has another water well. But I have a couple of 10-gallon tanks that I have set up that I keep my plants in, and I do that because of the humidity levels. But I've recently changed to LED lighting on the top of the tank, and even though many of the plants are blooming, the light spectrum that they're getting seems to be a little bit different. So this is a little bit of an experiment for me. I have grown these plants on a windowsill before with a medicine cup on top of the plant, and they didn't like it as much as I thought they would. It does create a miniature greenhouse for them with the medicine cup on top, but at the same time, I don't know if they just like more oxygen or if they just like more air around each plant. So this is how I have them set up now, just a few of them. And then as I have more peanut butter jars, I'll probably put more in them. Now in my case, this is an advantage because I can take, for example, this plant into my art table, and I can just place that whole jar on the table and observe the plant well enough to draw it. I don't have to disturb the plant. I don't have to change its environment. I don't have to do anything. Very economical way. Most of us buy peanut butter anyway. The least expensive pots are probably the garden pot, the green one on the left there. I needed more of these water wells, and I think I needed 25 of them, and it was going to be about $40. So those are a little bit expensive. Baby food jars are, you can get baby food for under $2. Most of them I think are like 89 cents a piece. So, and it's a glass jar. Now with that, what I do is just keep the soil damp. I don't keep it overly moist or let it dry out. And in fact, behind here, this is a 1.5 gallon small pet container that I've actually used for animals in the past, but I don't have any small animals right now. And I have it set up with a very simple aquarium corner water filter. And you would think that you'd see a goldfish swimming around in there. What I'm actually doing is double filtering my water to use to water the plants. Now, I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. One, Flint, Michigan, and now a place in Texas, they've found contaminants in their water. I use bottled water to drink and cook with, but I'd like to be able to use tap water as much as possible. So by setting up this, it holds about 1.5 gallons, or I think about 1.5 gallons. I can make sure that there aren't any metals, heavy metals, getting on the plants, that they're not going to take up anything that a plant shouldn't be taking up. Now, the last thing I want to mention is something that can happen with these water wells. And if I can do it with one hand, let me just open up this one container. I'm going to put the camera down just for a second. Sorry. This is what can happen with the water wells. Now here's the plant, and this one has a very nice seed pod on it. And the plant itself is wonderfully happy. What's happening though, and you have to watch out for this with wicks, that's algae. And that algae buildup is on the wick. And this is why I'm double filtering my water. Now, what I have to do with this plant is take it over to the sink. I have to wash that wick off. I think this one is yarn, or it might be thread. But the fibers of the thread or the yarn allow that algae to build up. And what then happens is that it continues to build up in the well. And then you've got algae competing with your plant. So, it can happen. It's common. It's not really a big problem. I notice with my tap water, let's say we have a storm and I lose power, and I fill all kinds of containers with water. After 24 hours, there are cloudy things floating around in my water. That means there is some kind of an algae or biological something in my water. And it's not in the containers because I washed those out very well. I mean, we're talking about this can happen in a stainless steel pot, so it's not the containers. And now, by seeing this being fairly common among my plants with the algae buildup, that's why I've set up a very small, inexpensive, easy to set up and use water filter for the plant water. So overall, that's economical ways to both house individual micro-miniature Sinningia pusillas or other micro-miniature Sinningias. You could also do this with miniature African violets. Another aspect of this is if you're hybridizing them. This one's in bloom, and I wish the color would correct itself in the lens. This one is in bloom, and if I want to cross this with another variety, it's so easy to keep each plant separate this way. So I would then cross that plant, I would pollinate it from another plant, and then keep the whole plant isolated so the seed pod would be separate from any of the other plants. These plants self-pollinate, so that if I don't cross them, they will always produce what is called a self, or a seed pod that will have seeds just like themselves. So, which is, like I said, there is a seed pod on this one here. So those are just a couple of little hints about growing micro-miniature Sinningias.